Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Kaya Health Podcast. I'm so happy to introduce our next guest, Carrie-Ann Lawrence, to you. Carrie-Ann is an amazing human with the most vibrant energy and uplifting personality. In this episode, she shares how she was able to leverage the healing power of nature to support her body through multiple health challenges, including a thyroid cancer diagnosis. What I love most about her story is that for her, it wasn't just about eating right. She talks about achieving health in a truly holistic way. Positive thinking, setting boundaries, prioritizing her own needs, and saying no to toxicity by surrounding herself with good people and a positive, uplifting environment. She really embodies the importance of a healthy mind, body, and soul, and I can't wait for you to hear her story yourself. Let's get into the episode. Welcome, Carrie-Ann, to the Kaya Health Podcast. I'm so excited to have you join us today. So let's just dive right in. And for those people listening who don't already know you, and I'm sure you already have your own following, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Cerise. I am super excited to be here. My name is Carrie-Ann Lawrence. I am a registered nurse by profession. I'm actually an advanced registered nurse practitioner specializing in women's health. And I am super excited to literally dive into this other form of what I do outside of the hospital. I am really a plant food-based enthusiast and definitely a soul nurturer. And what I do, I help people use nature to redesign their plate. Our world right now is truly really not in the best state of health. And one of the ways that we can literally center ourselves back and connect back with ourselves is through nature. And if we utilize the vast amount of foods out there naturally, we can truly see that our health will start shifting as well. As we connect with nature, it nurtures us. And that's where I am right now, is using that to see how we can decrease a lot of the chronic health conditions so that we can have a healthier and happier life.
I love that. Two things that you said that stood out to me is using nature to redesign our plates, and then when we use nature, it nurtures us. Just never heard it said like that before, and that really resonated with me on a deep level. So, how did you actually come to this realization? Is this something that you grew up knowing? Like, did you grow up in a family that was very natural, whole foods based? Or did you realize it later on in life? How did you get there?
I think it's a combination of things. I
Mm-hmm.
grew up on an island. I grew up in Jamaica, and I was outside as a little girl a lot. I interacted with nature. I enjoyed playing in the dirt. I enjoyed climbing trees with the boys. I enjoyed just trying to connect. And I remember one of the things that I loved and enjoyed more than anything was studying and reading in a mango tree. There was a mango tree in
Wow.
my backyard, and I would come home and I would climb that tree and I would sit there with my books, and that's how I would study and I would connect. That's where it all started for me, connecting with nature. I enjoyed the birds singing and everything around me. And I realized when I came here as a teenager in the United States, and it shifted because I didn't have nature to nurture me. So a lot of things shifted for me, and I can literally go back and see how it affected my skin from the inside out, because if it's on my skin, it's on the inside. So it literally um, shifted how my brain worked, because we weren't able to go outside like we used to. I was used to being an outdoors girl, so that kind of changed. But just using that, and then how it's more of we take medicine for everything. I grew up where my grandmother went outside in the yard and she picked an herb and she was
Bush.
like,
Yeah.
wow, this is the tea. And it's like, oh wow, it literally helps you to feel better. And I'm thinking, how, that shift really came front and center for me before I wanted to have kids. So that's when, so I'm forwarding there. Like a lot of women or teenagers or young women, I had issues with cramping. So I was placed
Mhm.
on birth control pills when I was going off to college, saying, my mom was like, you can't miss a lot of school. And the doctor was like, well, this is one way to do that. So I was on birth control pill. And when I was ready to have kids, I kind of stopped maybe a year before. And then I wanted a detox. I didn't know anything about detox really, but I just wanted to see how I can best have the best health to not just carry a baby, but also support my body through that and beyond. And that's when I had my first. I was introduced to juicing. I was introduced to a cleanse. And that's when myself kind of like, I started seeing dabbling in this world and seeing how that can benefit me. And of course, over the years, life happens and you kind of drift away from some of the things you learn. But if you have a foundation, you always come back.
Come
And I
back,
came
yeah.
back. So
Mm-hmm.
I came back to that, knowing that earth is what is going to help me to get to the next level in my health, because I had lots of health challenges, which I will get into. But it's like I knew without a shadow of a doubt that if I flood my body with nourishment, it will work for me. So it just came back to over the years of knowing, of understanding that. That was kind of instilled at a young age, that nature nurtures.
Nurtures. Oh, that's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. So let's talk a little bit about the health issues that you said you were experiencing. Do you want to elaborate a little on that?
Sure. I was diagnosed in 2014, I think, with thyroid cancer. And
Wow.
so that was really when I had that real the first blow. It was like a blow, right? But prior to that, my body whispered to me. I will always say, my blood pressure started going up,
Mm-hmm.
right? My weight was literally going up and I couldn't understand why. um, I even was on a CPAP machine. Can just imagine, just a picture. I had to use a CPAP machine, and I used it for a few years. That was a gift I got for myself for my 40th birthday, a CPAP machine. So it's like my body was whispering to me and whispering, and it was just being ignored because I continued life as usual, working 7 days a week, not taking enough time to nurture myself, not interacting. My my soul every day involved getting up, going to work, taking care of patients, coming home, then taking care of my children, and then there was no time for myself because I had to keep going back over. So with being in school and all these other things. So it's a bunch of things. So when you get that aha moment, that came at a point where, you're excited because I was getting ready to close on my house. I'm gonna set this up. I'm gonna close on my house. My doctor called the day before and said, I need to come in. I said, I'm busy tomorrow. I'm going to close on my house. He said, no, you got to come in. So about an hour and a little bit, hour and a half maybe before I was supposed to close on my house, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. So then I had to go out
Wow.
there. Oh, I'm thinking I'm going to sign this big mortgage. Am I supposed
Mortgage.
to do that? So I had all those things racing through my mind. So it wasn't the most signing my that mortgage was not the most fun at the time, right? But what I can look back now and say, that was the beginning of a wake up call. I had surgery. Everything I thought it would just solve everything. Went back to working 7 days a week, doing the same things that I was. And then a year would go by and I saw myself just keep going up in weight and going up. I was over like 240 pounds. And I'm thinking something had to give because I struggled going up the steps. I was out of breath. I was like, the things that I took for granted just didn't work. I was on more medicines for blood pressure. It was no longer one, two wasn't working. I needed a third one, and I was refusing to go on a third one, right? But it's like that built up. So I literally went on vacation. I had an aha moment driving home, and I literally asked God. I said, I was there. I said, you've got to show me the way so that
Mm-hmm.
I can do something differently because the way I'm feeling right now is not the way I want to feel. And he answered, right? Because that aha moment came. where I had to shift. And that's what I did. I went home, looked for a job. Within like a couple of days, I found another job, really. I had that tunnel vision that when I listened on that drive home, my kids were in the car sleeping, and I was like, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to go and look here for a job. Like everything was like, it's like a roadmap, right? And I did, and there was a job there, and I got the job, took the job. I was happy because even though my pay dramatically decreased, it wasn't like a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of cut. I just was a sense of relief. Then I started eating differently. And I said, no, I'm not working 7 days a week or constantly going. Um, it just literally made that difference. Started eating, and then I started watching what was happening. And then I was like, this isn't working, and that's not working. And over time, I literally started sharing with people at work. And with their they wanted to do it. So I had challenges at work, and I was like, okay, come on, join me. So that's how
Yeah.
I gathered the strength to keep going, because then I had people looking
Had
up to me. So I had
people.
to keep going. Right. And so I remember at a pivotal moment, you're still at a crossroads. I'm like, okay, where do I go? And I said to myself, how about I just try going completely plant-based for 3 months? And I was shocked. And like in no time, my A1C was boop, dropped because I was pre-diabetic. So that went down. I think I went down to like a 5.4, 5.5, something like that. So I was like, no longer even considered that. And then I saw, oh, my blood pressure is going down. I mean, it's like I felt better. I
Mm-hmm.
looked better. I like my skin started. I was like, there's something to this, and I never looked back after that. So I think I went plant based when my son went off. It was in 2017, because everything is steps. I think it's 2017.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember now, but yeah. So it's that step that you take, and I never look back. And that's what's led me here today, because I see the difference of me not just losing the weight, but being able to come off all of my blood pressure medicines. I don't have a problem with it. I no longer need a CPAP machine. I have the vitality that I need to show up every day and be the best version of myself. And that's what I strive to be each day, to live in my fullest potential. And every day that I nurture myself, it never fails. It never
Mm-hmm.
fails.
That's so amazing. So, if there are a couple things that you thought were the most pivotal in getting you to where you are today, because talking to you today, I could never believe that you are above 200 pounds, that you couldn't make it up a flight of stairs without getting out of breath. Like your vitality and energy is oozing through the screen. Your skin
Yeah.
looks great. So you said you went plant-based,
Mhm.
and then you worked less, I guess, with your when you transitioned to a
Yeah.
new job.
I create a different environment. And that's where
Okay.
it starts. We have to think of mind, body, soul, not just one aspect. It's not just the physical food on our plate, but it's also our emotional space, our spiritual space, our financial space. That plate encompasses the whole. So it's how do you get to that place? So when I released um, having to work that hard or working myself to not having any time for myself, that freed up time. I remember the first weekend I was off. I didn't know what to do myself. My body was on such a high of continuously going. It
Continuously
didn't
working.
know what to do. So I can, and it's something that stayed with me. That stayed with me, and I said I never want to feel that way again. So it takes the time when you're sleeping, right? Our body repairs itself. So that's when it gets to flush all the stuff out and replenish. So we have to really give our body what it needs, the tools it needs to do the work it was designed to do, right?
Wow.
Because we are designed to heal ourselves. Our body's designed that way. So when you go to sleep, the liver works hard and flushing out getting all that stuff, metabolizing all the hormones in our body. If we're taking any medication, it a lot of it goes through the liver. The liver does a lot of work. So we have to, make sure we're getting enough. our cortisol level, if that fight or flight mode that we're constantly going in, if we're constantly in that fight or flight, then we're not getting a balance. So then we have hormone imbalance
Yeah,
issues,
imbalances.
and then it affects our reproductive health issues. And then you start seeing something like me, because I was consistently going, the throat area, this is, our my voice. This is when I think of the thyroid in this area, I didn't really have a voice. I wasn't using my voice to its best because I wasn't supporting myself.
Yeah.
And with that constant going again, thyroid does a lot of things. And I'm thinking, no, I don't have that. But for me to not have a thyroid and still have all this vitality, it's because I have intentionally nurtured myself, providing myself with what nourishes, making sure I have the right food, making sure that I'm getting enough rest, making sure that I have some activities in my world, making sure that I am connecting to people that are not in a space of draining energy, but matching me or helping me to elevate, right?
Mm.
So it's a lot of all those things, and knowing when to say no. Saying no is a yes to yourself at times. And a lot of times I didn't know how to say that. As a nurse, I am a giver. I am there to care and give and give. And I realized I'm empty, still trying to give.
Trying to give,
And
yes.
that give sucked from me, and my health failed. Right. And that's where I see a lot of us in that cycle right now, because wow, especially as nurses, I see we give so much. We're constantly going in a day, and we don't nurture ourselves, and we're struggling with the same chronic health conditions that our patients are struggling with. So who's
Yes.
going to take care of us? That's a huge question. That's the question I ask myself every day. If we don't start taking back our own power, which is literally using what we know, using the purest things to literally shift the energy that we have and shift our
Mm-hmm.
health, it doesn't, it's not gonna have a good outcome for us. And I always look and I say we should be living longer and healthier, and then most people are living longer, but they're not
But they're
healthy.
not
So what
healthy.
is the point of having longer life if you don't have um health,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yes.
all about, it's not just, can I need to stay alive as long as possible. No, it's about that quality of that life that you have. And that's
Yes.
literally where I am. I want to have quality life.
I love everything you just said because what I feel like you've done, which is not something I think we do very well in our society right now, is you said it's not just what you put on your plate, or it's not just exercising twice a day and then you're automatically healthy. It's about your environment, who
Mhm,
you talk to, who you let into your life, how you take care of yourself, setting boundaries, making sure your mental health and is okay and you're not taking on too much stress. I love that you brought in all of those emotional aspects and environmental aspects as well, because you're so right, that plays such an important role in us achieving that quality of life. And that's the other thing that I love that you said, which is something that I spoke about in one of my previous episodes as well, that
mhm,
health is not just being able to say I drink a smoothie for breakfast and eat salads for lunch and dinner. Health is about having that quality of life, being able to thrive from the inside, having joy, having energy, not having brain fog,
mhm,
being able to walk up a flight of stairs without feeling like you're going to pass out. It's about how you feel, like your quality of life. So I love that you brought that up.
mhm.
And now I completely lost the next question that I was going to ask you.
But it's okay, because when you think of when you talk about the quality, most of these fad diets that they have, they're not looking at the quality. They're looking at, I want to lose this weight. They will just want to give things out. And I'm thinking, I went into it, with a mindset that I want to feel better.
Yes.
I was going from feeling better. Didn't matter what the weight on the scale is. I still don't even know what I weigh, to be honest. I don't. I don't use the scale as my guide. I use how I feel as my guide. And that's where I think a lot of that disconnect is. Everybody has this image that they're trying to live up to. They want to have this body, they want to have that. But they're losing the one thing that ties us all together, and that's love. And it starts from here. The way you treat yourself is the highest form of self love,
Absolute love, yes.
right? And then when you start doing that, it radiates. It has no other, it literally has so much energy. It shifts the room you're in, it
Mm-hmm.
shifts the people you interact with. And if you can lead from that heart space, it makes a difference. And then you'll see that the food you want to bring into your body wants you want things that brings light, right? I always one of the things I say is like life gives you life. And when you think of interacting with nature, living things, and you go out there, when you see how much energy you have when you just go outside in the sun. Don't be afraid of the sun. It gives you life, it gives you energy, it fuels you.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the things that we need to interact with, making sure. And when you do that, you're gonna see you see the world a little differently. Because I wasn't always in this space, like I said, on my journey to healing, this is how I got here. My true authentic self is arriving. And what I tell everybody every day is every day I'm just trying to meet that inner child inside of me and use that as my compass to being the next, to becoming who I'm supposed to be. Because I'm no longer trying to live a life that people expect me to be, but I'm trying to live the life I am designed to live and the
Yes.
person I'm designed to be. And that's where I am on that journey to getting there every day.
Yes. And now I remember what I was going to say is I encounter so many people who are like, I'm doing all the right things. I'm eating all the right foods. I'm exercising. My body is, looks great, but I don't feel great. And I really do love that you are emphasizing that it's not just about fitting into a certain image or having a certain body, having a certain number when you stand on the scale. It really starts with how you feel. And then the other thing that you mentioned, that self love is the highest form of love. And a lot of us, we don't love ourselves. We treat ourselves, we put ourselves last and treat
Mhm,
everybody else better than us, put their needs before ours.
mhm.
And then we go out into society and expect people to treat us the way we don't even treat ourselves.
Exactly.
And then
Yeah.
we're upset when things don't go our way, or we keep encountering people who, you know, do us in, or, try to scam us or whatever. But the truth is, at a certain point, when it starts with you, if you start putting yourself first, loving yourself first, then you have more love to give everybody else. And like you said, what starts to shift, which is what I'm experiencing my own personal journey now, is the things and the people that come into your life. All of a sudden it just starts to shift, and the things that you used to experience before, you no longer experience them, because it's like your energy, you just give off that energy that you're not going to tolerate certain things, or you are for certain things,
Mhm. It is, yeah, it is so important, it literally. And I don't want to mess this quote up because it's Maya Angelou's, because she always say that the words, a lot of people don't use words correctly. And I remember when I heard her make that, when I heard that, I was like, wow. And that's when I started paying attention to the words. She said words have energy, and they land on
Mm,
our walls, they land in everything. And I thought, oh my goodness. And I remember looking, and I was like, oh my goodness. Some of the things I may have said that my kids, I'm thinking, oh, and instead of beating myself up, because I'm telling you, you can only give from the cup that you know from, right? You can give from that cup,
yes.
pour from what you know. And then each day you try to learn something else to add. So I remember when I said, oh my goodness, Some of the things that I may have said, I was like, I could have said them different, and there's energy on this walls in this house. So guess what I did? I went trying to rechange the energy. I literally put, I remember when I was on my journey, I created this vision board and I put sticky notes and I put, this is the energy I want over here. I want this over here and I want that over here. And it's all about how you interpret things and how things land with you.
Land,
And
yes.
when I remember when she said that, and I thought, some of the things I may have said at work were misinterpreted. And I'm thinking that's not the space I'm coming from, but it's how people receive what I say. And I was like, how can I start with myself? I didn't go like blaming everybody else. I started with that shift in me. And that's the difference. You cannot change other people, but you can change yourself. And then when you change that, when you start making that shift, everybody notice. Because I couldn't always really talk this way and this passionately about how I want to have this vibrant life. No, but it's now it's like it's so easy for me because why? This is what I strive to do every day. I go to work every day and people are like, you're smiling, you're happy. Yes, I get one life. I only get one life, right? And it's not a matter of what someone else has done. People have to understand we hold on, especially women, we hold on to things a lot instead of allowing to have things, okay, this occurred, and then we have to choose how we hold on to that. And one of the things I choose not to do is keep carrying the load of negativity anymore.
Negativity.
I can't do that. It's so it literally it just tries to get through to my space and I don't let it. So it's like people. So this is why sometimes you're like, you always say you lose people along the way. You don't lose people. You still love them. You love them from a distance because now what happens when you on taking care of yourself on a different level, they naturally fall off if they're not supposed to be there. Right? So
Exactly.
it helps preserve what you're trying to achieve. And that's what it is. I'm literally preserving the peace that I carry. Now, when I say this, does it mean that I'm perfect like this every day? No, it doesn't. The journey is not about being perfect. The journey is about making progress and
Progress.
knowing that you're human and that every time that you experience an emotion, you still get to choose how you react. So once you choose something that you're not necessarily pleased with, you get to sit with yourself. You get to choose where you want to sit and then choose again how to move forward. Take the lessons that's there and say, how can I do this differently next time? And then keep moving and not hold on. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm
Don't
going to
hold
beat
on to it.
myself up. That's the difference. We even in within us being human, we say, oh, we're on this diet and we're going to eat this way, and then oh my goodness, you have a cheeseburger or you have something, and you completely beat yourself up instead of
Yes.
showing yourself a little bit of grace, holding some space, and say, the energy that you put around that same cheeseburger could be a little different,
You're
right?
so
To know
right.
that you're not perfect, but you are in this moment, in the middle of your imperfection, right? It's still your perfect journey.
Oh, wow.
In the middle of your imperfection is still your perfect journey. So know that everything happens to teach us a lesson. And it's how we get the lesson and then what we do with it
That's what
makes a difference.
counts. Yes.
Mm.
Yes. So tell us more about what you're doing right now in terms of helping other people connect with the healthiest versions of themselves.
Well, one of the things that I love, I told you I went back to. I don't think I quite got into the story of had my first juice cleanse when I was before I
Oh,
had my baby, and
yes.
that's when I started. I had my detox, had my cleanse. It's the mom and pop store in New York. I can't even remember the lady's name or the name of the store, but it was just happened that it's a health food store back in the 90s, and voiced concern, and she told me you can do a juice cleanse, and I did it, and I was like, wow, that was the first time I found
So,
myself opening up.
And
Okay.
this was, you said you had been suffering from severe cramps, right? Menstrual
Yes,
cramps. And so
severe
they put
pain.
you on birth control, and you have been
Mhm.
on birth control for a number of years. And at this point now, you're ready to come off of birth control and try to
I
have a
stopped.
baby.
Yes, I
Okay.
stopped. And then I was like, now I'm ready to have kids. I was in my mid 20s. Well, yeah, 24, 25. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like I wanted to have, ready to have babies. And I'm like, I can't do it with my body this way with all that. And that's just me, just a little bit that I knew back then. I wasn't even a nurse then. So I just knew a little bit. But I knew I didn't feel good. So I had my first juice cleanse. It was amazing. I remember I released and it's not even so much about the weight. I'm not even going to tell you how much I released, but I released some weight. And then with that release, I remember having my first clear vision of um what it was to come. When I say it's like, a lot of what I'm doing now, it was given to me back then, and it's the journey to get there, right? Because I thought I have to go to work, I have to have a job, I have to do these things because that's how we were taught, right? And this is why I'm saying no longer am I keeping with that. So now with that knowing, I am moving forward to helping other people in a more natural way, because this is not traditional care, but this
Mm-hmm.
should be the care that we use traditionally, because eating, how we design our plate, the foods we have on our plate, um, it starts with nature, and we should be nourishing ourselves with nature. If it's not a plant or something with life that you start from, that's going to give us life, then why are we eating it? I think of, the energy that we get when we eat meat. Think about when you think of an animal that's knowing it's going to meet its death. And if you
Mm-hmm.
think of yourself, if you're afraid and you run, you think your life is in danger, and that fight or flight mode, and you have your hormones all off, and everything is gushing, and that adrenaline going and all that stuff. Think of all that energy in the meat that we're eating,
Yeah.
and we're saying that's nourishing. That's not nourishing. We're getting all those hormones. We're getting the things that it's feeding off of, the antibiotics, all these other things that we're doing to it. And then what we're doing to make them grow faster these days and all that good stuff. So and as a society, we're not getting healthier. When you think of more, probably at least half of the population, over half of the population is overweight. When you think of what is it, 6 out of 10 adults have a chronic health condition, and then you think of, I think it's 4 out of 10 that has at least two health chronic conditions. If what we're doing is working, we would not be heading in this direction. So it's how we are going to move forward. Start Stop the I need a pill for this, I need a this for that, and say, how can I get outside, get more sun, get more activity, literally nurture ourselves with nature, and then use the fruits, the veggies, the nuts, the seeds that's there, and nurture us, because then you're getting nourishment. You can't tell me that if you're eating plants, then you're going to be like, oh my gosh, you're going to get your cholesterol levels increased. Of course, there's some genetic issues, but when you think about it, they always tell you cut down on your fats and all these. The plants you're going to have is not going to have all those fats that's
Dependent.
going to
Yeah. Yeah.
clog up your arteries and doing these things. So it's just going back to basics. So what I'm here to do is help you go back to basics. Back
Mm-hmm.
in the days when you were in your own kitchen, preparing your own food, and then using nature. How can we add more of that? There's so many herbs out there, natural, that we're not using, that are beneficial. Your cilantros, your parsley, all these things, you can juice them. Amazing of cleansing the body, right? Of giving the body
Mm-hmm.
what it needs. And then we can use things in the ocean, like your sea moss, those are the things that's literally has so many minerals, especially that our bodies are lacking. And we're in the earth, the soil alone is the nutrients are depleted. So we
Yes.
already know that. So how are we going to use that to our advantage? It's not just about eating fruits and vegetables, but also what we can do naturally to help that. And then, things like sea moss. That's amazing. Most people don't use that, but I use that in everything. I use that in making my meals. I use that in my smoothies. I use it in making my elixirs. I use it everything. I have it. I take, so it's like getting those minerals makes a difference because people are saying my hair is falling out. My skin on the same. I'm like, because we don't necessarily have all the
All
minerals that we're
the,
getting.
yeah.
And those, when you think of that, we have to see how we can get that. We have to be out in the sun, first of all. I keep saying going out in the sun because we all don't want to be in the sun. We gotta be in the sun.
Yes, yes,
It is part of the
100%.
nature, the energy that literally gives us life, right? So I know that we're not all in an area where we can say just be plant-based because there's places that food deserts. I understand that, but one of the things that I am going to doing moving forward is seeing how I can start growing my own stuff in pots, because my whole vision is to have my own farm. I really want to have an orchard where I can grow everything I need and then be able to feed my community from that. That is my end vision. And I know that it starts with just taking the first step. And I think that's where you're asking. I kind of went in a circle, but the first step of what you can do is just literally start having at least one nourishing, that one meal that's nourished, that's full with nourishment. And I always say a great way to start is the one glass of juice a day. I always say
Mm-hmm.
start with a juice a day, or even a smoothie, something that's going to give you plants and something that's going to give you some life. And then when you start there, your body starts to crave more of what it
More
needs.
of it,
And then you
yeah.
can differentiate. Oh, I'm craving this. Well, let me go have that. And then you feel terrible after you eat it. Right? It's about how do you see that differently. So I would always say
Exactly.
just start with one thing, a juice a day, a fresh juice, fresh a glass of smoothie, and then seeing and then working your way. Because I always say Rome wasn't built in a day. I
Yes.
didn't get here in a day. I took steps. I started cutting things out. I was like, I'm not eating meat or any of these things. And then it progressed to where I am sitting here where I'm very high raw, where most of the food I eat is uncooked. I mean, for the past what 3+ months, I haven't cooked anything. I'm thinking, yes, I'm doing good.
Wow, not cooking anything? Like
Mm-mm.
you said, Rome wasn't built in a day, but maybe one day I'll get there.
Yeah, if Rome was not built in a day, it took steps for me to get here. So that and there's the caveat. Most people say, "Oh my God, I want to be like this person." This person didn't get there overnight, and then when they
That's
can't
so
get there, they're like,
true.
"Oh my gosh, no!" Do you know how many years it took for me to get here? It took a long time for me to get to the point where I said,
Exactly.
"Oh, I'm ready to just do this." And when I said, I use a dehydrator, I dehydrate things. I literally see how I can replace some of the things that I enjoyed and use plants to do so. And that's literally, and there's ways. So it's about using our creativity. So it's about us shifting from that limbic part of our brain to our frontal, where we're using that creativity, because art shows up in everything. I tell you, art shows up in how we in our kitchen every day, and we don't even realize, because how you put together your
Yes.
food is art. I consider myself an art maestro at juicing. This
Wow.
is like that's my superpower. I tell that everybody because I juice like I juice every day. I go to work and they're like, you bring a juice. I have juices every day because there's certain things that I've created. That's like a foundation for me
Mm-hmm.
because it's a great way to get an abundance of nutrients in a glass. Think of that. Nourishing from the inside out. Our cells are
From fresh
smiling.
plants.
I give myself a bath. And then they get to absorb the things they need and store what to others still later. And then what my body doesn't need is intelligent enough to release it. Right?
Yeah,
So it's like
yeah.
we need to understand our bodies are intelligent.
Okay, so you said that, what you encourage people to do is just kind of start where you're at and try to have at least one nourishing meal. And for you, that nourishment or that nourishing meal is often in the form of a juice. Now, when you say juice, are you talking about like apple juice, orange juice, or V8 splash? Like, what kind of juice are you talking about here?
Okay. I'm talking about the juice that you're gonna make in your kitchen, and it's gonna include any kind of fruits or vegetables of your choice. Um,
Okay.
one of the things that it's when you're new to juicing and you're just starting, you can start with having a green juice, and just make it something simple. I always start off simple: celery, cucumbers, ginger, lemon, and maybe some green apples. And you can make that in the morning. It's not gonna, it won't take all day, and you can just have yourself that nice 32 ounce. I always, you see how I always try to say 32 ounces because I'm like, the bigger the better. I have I'm like, start off with a nice 32-ounce mason jar, and you can start your juicing. If you don't know how to juice, then reach out, because I'm here to teach you how to do that. Because what that is one of the things that I think shifted it for me, because we go and we're always like busy, busy, busy. We don't and when I juiced, for some reason, that was when I saw the magic. Like, I
Wow.
literally saw how my body responded. When you start eating more plant-based foods, you realize that you don't have that heaviness or the sleepiness after eating, like you normally do. You don't feel so heavy. And if you want to start with a lot of people say they don't have breakfast and they don't do any of that stuff, but it's so important when you wake up in the morning to literally give your body rehydrate your body, because when you're sleeping and it's doing all that work, it's using up a lot of that, right?
Mm.
Some people sweat at night. Your body's trying to have all that stuff, and what you want to do is, once your body does a lot of that repair at night, in the morning you want to give your body what it needs to flush and release the excess, the toxins, right? You are, or however you look at it, you want to flush. So hydration is important. So this is why I said always drinking in the morning. If you don't, if you fasting, and some, they do that fasting, then you make yourself a nice water, and then you can put some lemon in it, just have it like a
Lemon.
nice lemonade, water, lemon, or put a little bit of apple cider in it, and just making sure that it's, so it's literally gonna help release and flush. But making sure that when we wake up in the morning, we are drinking some water, and I'm not saying tap water, because we really want to avoid a lot of that. It has other things in it, that our bodies not doesn't need. So, I'm a huge fan of using distilled water,
Mm.
because it removes um, a lot of the excess things that your body does not need, and it helps me. And I always say, how we take, one of the things that our bodies do very well. If we don't do the filter outside, the body will filter for you and hold on to things that it doesn't need. So, when I say that, it shows up in the form of stones in the body, right? You can have some, whatever
Mm.
stones you can have. The calcification, when calcification occurs, well, think of when you're using your tap water and seeing how it can calcificate around the pipe. What's even better
Yes.
is if you have a kettle, right? Just think of the kettle you have, and you pour water in there and you make your tea every morning from the tap. You're boiling, thinking, yes, it's doing good. And when you look at the bottom, you see all that calcification at the bottom of the kettle, because you normally just fill it up and leave it there. Yeah, think of that. If you do that on a kettle, what's it doing to our body? So these are
I
the
never thought of
questions
that.
that I ask, right? And a good way that I know it's true and for sure is when you're on a CPAP, because I had to use a CPAP for a few years. They tell you to only use distilled water to filter, or it's going to cause calcification.
You're so
Well, if it's going to do that to the machine, what's it doing to
What
us?
is it doing to your body?
So our
What is
body.
it doing
So
to your
so these
body?
are the little things that I used to always. This is when I ask questions, and I said, how else? How can I avoid that? Excuse me. So if it says distilled water for that, I'm thinking, well, why not just start drinking distilled water? Yeah. So these are the
Wow.
little things that I'm like, makes you think, right?
It really does. I never heard that analogy of, it. the kettle and like even using
Yeah,
distilled water. Even my I had a humidifier, and it like recommend that you use distilled water in the
why is that
humidifier
like
to
that?
avoid it getting clogged up. I never ever thought that the regular tap water might actually be clogging my body. Do you typically buy your distilled water like in the bottles, or do you have a distilling machine?
I do buy them, but I do buy them, but you can also get a distiller, and they're
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. You can get them. They're on our favorite stores. You can buy them, and they come overnight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
So yeah, so you can
okay.
get a distiller, and that's something. If you have questions, I can show you how later. You can, because they're just over the counter, and you just have them. And
Yeah.
you have them.
So juice,
Hmm.
distilled water,
Hmm.
trying to go plant based. Are
Trying to
there
go
any
plant-based.
other tips that you have for somebody who's not feeling well? Like you said, they realize that the way they're feeling right now, the way their lifestyle is going, they can't continue on like this. And
Hmm.
they're just trying to make a change. Any other things that you think that you can start focusing on?
Oh yeah, start listening to your body's whispers. Listen to your body. It tells you. It provides all the clues for you every time. All right. So it's really taking a really focused assessment of where you are, writing down how you feel. So it starts with journaling. What are you eating every day? And then how does that food make you feel? Right? So you're attaching, okay, I when I ate this cheeseburger, afterward I felt sleepy, tired, I was my bloated, all these things. Well, check that off the list because that shouldn't be eaten, right? So it's about doing an inventory of where you are. Then that's doing that with the foods you're eating. Then are you getting enough rest? That is the one thing I find that's overlooked. I remember before being on this journey how I drive and I'm at a stop sign and sometimes I'm like falling asleep. It's like, wait, because I was just constantly going, I rest. I remember falling asleep. I can remember falling asleep at a stop sign, going stop light, going home from work. And I was like, I woke up and I was like, oh, the light's green. Oh dear. Right? You
Wow.
doze off.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what happens. Your body is going to find moments to get what it needs to get you to the next level. Even if it's just that 30 seconds of you closing your eyes. So it's, are we getting enough rest? It is the most important thing we can do for ourselves, and it's yet the most underrated because we got to burn the candle at both ends. I'm not doing that. That's not
And that's
happening
like
anymore.
praised. That's
Yeah,
praised in our society now, right? Everybody's
that
posting
is
about
it. We got to
working
burn the
60
candle at
hour
both.
weeks. Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not
Hustle
part of that.
culture.
No, because that takes away from you nurturing yourself. So yeah, so getting enough sleep. So we're gonna talk about a plate, eat, sleep. Then we're gonna see how are we spending our time, the time that we have. Is it around people that's draining? Are you spending your time on the internet just surfing and spending all your hours getting whatever whatever stimulates you, right? So it's like, are you so then you're going to question, am I spending my time wisely? And
Mm-hmm.
everything that you take in visually impacts you because we have to see how we activate all our senses. All of that is in origin in our health. What we take in visually, what we hear, what we taste, what we touch, what we smell. We need all of these things. And that is important on your plate, right? Are you spending time with your loved ones? I remember this. We've gone through several years of not being able to touch,
To spend, yeah.
to hug. Do you realize how important connection is to our survival? It is at I mean, what broke my heart more than anything is like grandparents can't see their grandbabies. Do you realize what that
Mm-hmm.
does? So it's how do we bounce back from that? It's like starting to connect back with others, that's what's going to also bring life into us. Because the power of touch is so important, right? So those are the things. And then
Yeah.
also, how are we spending what our finances look like? Now it can be taxing for everybody, right? So it's not about how much you make or how little you make or what you have. It's about what you have. Are you using it resourcefully so that you can have the best quality of life
Of life.
with where you are, right? Um, so those are the questions I ask myself. Do I need to purchase that over there, or do I need to purchase an organic fruit?
Mm.
Right? Is it important for me to have this particular outfit because I say I'm going out this weekend? Or is it important to nourish my body from the inside outward, that it is me taking the steps I need to living the life I desire? Because most people desire to feel good. I don't know anyone that don't want to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And we use the external
Yes.
to feel good instead of seeing how we can get that from the internal. And that's where we're going. So it's that connecting. So you see how we're redesigning our plate, right? We're
Yes.
bringing in the mind, body, soul, and then the mental state. It's important to have, to not walk around with brain fog, right? How do we do that? If we're not nurturing feeding our stomach, it's not going to feed here, because whatever we do here goes here. The signals, our brain sends signals to our stomach, and our gut sends signals to our brain. So it's literally, how are we feeding our second brain, right?
Mm.
So if we're nourishing our bodies, then our brain is going to be nourished. So it's how we're gonna, and then you'll see how we start thinking differently. So maybe a lot of the things that we struggled with, you're gonna be like, you're not gonna struggle with that anymore,
You
because
struggle with
why?
that anymore.
Start seeing how your mood shifts. The mood we have shifts when we start nourishing, right? It's so important. It's all interconnected. It's all interconnected. And that's what I'm trying to have people understand. It's not just one thing,
One thing.
but it's the whole. So what we're on a quest. I'm on a quest to teach people how to take the steps to be whole. And everybody life, our lifestyle, does not have to be the same, right? We all need the same fundamental things, which is we need to be nourished. And we all need to be nourished. But how it shows up in our life can be a little different, because our lifestyles are different. And if we were all the same, then that wouldn't be fun, right?
It would.
We can all be plant based and still eat differently at home, because we make different things. We gravitate to using things and doing it differently. And then that's how we'll start a movement. This is how what we do today is is literally going to show the next generation how to be, right? So when we start eating better, we're teaching our children. And then our children will be able to teach their children. And then they go to school and share it with other kids. Then that's how we start doing the community. And then it literally just goes out into the world. And it
Mm-hmm.
starts with you. The change starts within yourself, and then what you can do. I think it's like, I look at it this way, and I said, people say, oh, but my genetics. My grandmother had this, my mother had this person had that. How did your mother eat? How did your grandmother eat? How were they interacting with nature? Did they teach you how to do what you do now?
To do. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's how it's all, so that's what those are the questions to ask. It's like, how can I literally create the shift that cause a ripple effect, so that the next generation have a pathway or a roadmap to take and continue.
Yes, Carrie Ann, and I can see how I can already see how you're going to be able to do that, how you're already doing that, and will continue to do that in an even bigger and better way. Like, I know even before the podcast, you shared with me people reaching out to you and letting you know how you helped them so much in their own journeys. And I can just tell from the passion that you have for this topic that you're just going to continue impacting more and more lives. And I'm so grateful that you're able to join me here on the podcast today and share all these amazing, like you dropped so many gems in the time we've spent together. It's just amazing and beautiful how you were able to do it. And I feel very inspired myself to do better at taking care of myself and being more conscious of not just what I put in my body and actually what's on the physical plate of food in front of me, but what's on my plate in general when it comes to life, like who I'm letting in, the environment I put myself in, what kinds of jobs I take on, all of these things, you're so right, play a huge role in the quality of life that we end up living. And at the end of the day, everything is about quality of life and how we want to feel and living the life that we actually want to, and not just, you know, the number on the scale or, anything physical or external like that. So thank you so much for sharing. Any other final gems that you want to drop before we wrap up for today?
Absolutely. I just want everybody to know that you have what it takes to live your best life already. You just got to tap in and connect.
Mm-hmm.
Tap in and connect with yourself because we all deserve to be happy no matter what we're going through, no matter where we are in life, no matter what space we're in. We all deserve to be happy. And it starts with you and it starts with the choices you make. And then when you think you're like, I'm not going to choose anything, you're still making a choice. So I invite you all just to literally look within yourself and choose you. And if you start choosing you every day, then the ripple effects is going to be endless because when you take care of you, you have so much more to share, to give, and to have that you are still replenished yourself or you're not repleting yourself rather. So I that is that's the one thing I know for sure. And that is that we all deserve to be happy. And we all want to feel loved. And
Mm-hmm.
it start with ourselves. And I said once you start making that connection, then everything else falls into
Falls
place.
into
Just use
place.
that as your guide, use that as your map to see, am I choosing me every time in every situation? And then if you're not choosing you, how did it make you feel? And then take that as your lesson to say, I don't want that feeling anymore. This is what these are some of the things I can do next. But again, always start with you and start by choosing you.
Yes. Yes, Carrie. Yes. Well, again, thank you for joining. And where can we find you if we want to follow your journey outside of this podcast?
Awesome. Thank you so much for asking. Well, I am at the Apothecary on Instagram and on Facebook. And let me spell it for you because it's spelled like my name. It is TheApothekerie. So it's at the
Mm-hmm.
Apothecary. So that's where you can follow me. I do have an amazing uh, membership that's going to be launched really soon, and you'll be able to get more information from there. So I am super excited. I really want to start a movement of at least incorporating a juice a day. So if you're willing to do that and you've never juiced before, I'm your girl. I can help you get there. And even if you are an avid juicer and you're juicing every day, again, join in the movement so that together we can collect lock arms and have the foundation to share with each other because I don't have all the answers. We
Yeah.
can all learn from each other. And as we learn, we grow. And as we grow, we evolve. And as we evolve, we become. So I look forward to connecting with all of you. Again, at the Apothecary on Instagram or on Facebook, or you can email me at info@justgreenliving.com.
Okay, amazing. And I will make sure to also have all that information listed below so that it's easy for you to find Carrie Ann in the future. Thank you again, Carrie Ann, for joining. This has been such an amazing conversation, and I'm so excited to possibly, regroup again and come back again once the challenges get started, and we can talk about those challenges and how to get more people involved, and you know how to join, all of that stuff. And maybe I'll join myself. um, Looking
Awesome.
forward to keeping in contact. Thanks so much for joining. And yes, all the best with everything.
Thank you
Bye.
so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.